Hey everyone, it's Craig and
Katya.
And what are we here to tell them about?
We're here to talk to you about Patreon.
Patreon, the sexy solution for supporting your favorites.
Absolutely. Do you want hot, juicy new content not available to the general public? Well, for just a very small donation, you can get access to all that.
A small donation for sexy, hot content available nowhere else, to no one else.
Locked up and secure, just for you, baby.
That's right, darling. And for $5, $7, or $10 a month, which is really less than a cocktail in most major cities, you can get hours and hours and hours of content.
That's true. Are you bored? Do you hate your life? Do you love your life? It doesn't matter.
Enhance it or replace it with Whimsically Volatile on Patreon. So you can get our bonus episodes, our listener questions bonus episodes, and Katya and Craig's Movie Club.
Brrr.
Join now at patreon.com/Katya and Craig. And now that we've gotten through the business bit of things, let's get into the show.
A Russian ballerina stomping on a bureaucrat. A perky suburban housewife who's dipping a toe in scat. Skip-it-a-bop, skip-it-a-bop, skip-it-a-bop-bop-bow. It's whimsically volatile.
Oh, it's an exciting day on Whimsically Volatile.
Yes, it sure is. We have a very special guest.
Special indeed, Mr. Michael DeBar.
Star of stage and screen.
And sound, or what would you call it? Records. Records and musical entertainment.
An all-around thoroughbred entertainer.
Indeed. You may have seen him on Nip Tuck. You may have seen him on MacGyver or WKRP in Cincinnati.
I was left thinking, who do you want me to be to make you sleep with me?
It's interesting you should say that because, you know, that is one of the main lines of one of his biggest songs.
I had no idea.
I know. It's amazing. You you two were operating in the same mental plane and wavelength.
Vibing. He's an incredibly funny and insightful and wonderful guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're happy that we were able to get him on the show.
Yeah.
No, God bless him. I was about to be furious, but I'm tired of being furious.
And we are here with Michael DeBar, who is talking about his new book, Tired of Being Furious.
Yes. Oh, that is such a good... I don't know if it's a book. I don't think I've got the patience to write a book. I'll leave that to the ex-wife. I'll let Pamela write the books. She's written 5, and they're all glorious.
Yeah.
If you haven't read them, you guys, Confessions of a Groupie. I'm with the band Pamela DeBar. In fact, she had a reading in Hollywood the other night, which was sensational.
Oh, where was it?
It was at that gallery on Sunset Boulevard, a photo gallery, Mr. Music Head. And he's a great guy and knows the history of everything.
Yeah.
He'll know what color Jim Morrison's underwear was when he threw them away.
Oh, my God.
But Miss Pamela and Mercy read from the books. And also read the lyrics of the GTOs. For you guys out there who don't know Miss Pamela, she was a very, very famous groupie in the 60s, and 5 or 6 girls under the aegis of Frank Zappa. And they made this record called Permanent Damage with Rod Stewart.
Oh, I didn't know Rod was on that.
With Jeff Beck.
Wow, yeah.
With Lowell George. But it's all songs about Rodney Bingenheimer and stuff. I mean,
Right.
It's just so avant-garde. But it was a really fun night to hear them. Now they're, shall we say, not 18 anymore.
Sure.
But to hear them read those lyrics was so fascinating. And the room, who was in the room, very young girls. They were all dressed like Miss Pamela.
Yeah.
Was 80% of the audience.
Wow.
Which, I mean, when you think about it, it's pretty interesting.
It is also the carry-on effect. The cultural impact of things
That
can be very
goes together
short.
outrageously.
Yeah.
That 60s ethos is just still alive.
Still
Why?
going.
Because there's no ethos now. It's ether, maybe.
Right.
Cyber sex.
That's your ethos, right, Ryan?
Oh, yeah, full tilt cyber sex. Yeah, that's me.
But I'm full on social media. I love all of that. But the night was exquisite because of these young'uns taking the torch, as it were.
Sure.
And because it's a feminist thing.
It is a feminist
It's
thing,
hashtag me, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And I believe in that. I say so every day on the radio.
Yeah.
Little Stevens Underground Garage, Sirius XM Channel 21. My show's on every day. 5 million listeners, and if there's anybody listening that listen to my show, I love you. You know that. Mm-hmm. But I say, the equality. Actually, I think women are vastly superior.
I think we both agree on that point. Yeah,
I agree with you on that one.
And I've learned more, put it this way, I've learned more from women than I've ever learned from a man.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Intellectually and spiritually, I think they say, I'm saying they, like they're a separate alien. Well, sometimes they are, and sometimes we are. But the point is that I get the truth, and that's all I care about right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just somebody telling me the truth. That's why today is so challenging for us.
Yeah.
Because it's just a bunch of fake news. It's a bunch of... and the guy espousing that it's fake news is responsible for the fake news. It's this weird dilemma, this duality that is disgusting. The flag at the White House has been down for a couple of days because of the passing of Senator John McCain, whose politics I'm not particularly, wasn't behind. But our president put it back up there. Now, what are we, 9?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is such an incredible vibe. I mean, God bless him, God bless everybody. But just yet another illustration of how fucked up it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard for me to actually continue to stay engaged with the news.
Well, this is the answer to that is we cannot run and escape and watch Netflix. I said this morning. Yeah. I said, listen, don't numb yourself with some series that you're digging to get away from what's happening. You are needed right now.
Right.
I mean, we have to, and I'm not talking about riots in the streets. I'm talking about a frequency of love and acceptance and energy and power and giving each other love and kindness and courage to change. Mm-hmm. We can't numb ourselves and not watch the news. Of course you don't want to watch the fucking news. You don't want to see a traffic accident. You want to get to your home and turn Netflix on, So, we gotta gird our loins, as they would say in the Bible.
How long have you been in the United States? Since 75?
Well, I came here in 72.
72.
In my first band, Silverhead. And then I met Miss Pamela in 74 on my birthday in New York City.
It's a good birthday.
Yeah, man. And that was that, it was the greatest present ever, and I love it very much to this day, even though we're not together. So I've been since 74.
74,
yeah.
In Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, yes, but the first 25 years of that was on tour, doing gigs and movies or whatever it was. But I consider Los Angeles my home. In America, I was born in England, but I was raised in the United States.
Okay. Right. And you were born into very interesting circumstances, which I think a lot of our listeners would be interested in.
I was an immaculate conception.
Right, of course.
Yeah. And
that's the school I went to when I was a Catholic school I went to.
That's my school.
Yeah.
And I didn't know me mum and dad, but yes, my father was an aristocrat and so on and so forth and all that.
So
shit.
You're a marquis?
Yes.
What is that? Mean?
It's a tent, a small tent. What does it mean? It means that you have rhythm and blue blood.
So you were born into aristocracy, and yet there was a financial problem.
Well, yeah, my father went to jail when I was 3 days old,
Holy shit.
So, well, sort of. But I can think of holier things. But yeah, it's a crazy story, And
we love crazy stories.
Yeah.
This is just a show based on those. But if if you'd like to,
well, I think that the important thing here is that it's all nonsense, and we are all the same, and we're all stars, and we're all loving creatures, and we get sidetracked with fear and anxiety. But in those days, I didn't know my father and mother at all. I met them a couple of times. But what happened was, because my father was this aristocrat, my education had been paid for on my first birthday.
Right.
Oh.
And I went to the schools that he went to. But he burned through the money. So the duality of my life has been educated in these incredible academic institutions in England, where you're taught Latin and buggery in that order. And I learned a lot, man, because I never went home in the vacation period. I would stay in these schools that were huge and Wuthering Heights-ish, with a touch of Aleister Crowley. But I at 16, everything had been paid for, is my point.
Sure.
My father's in jail. My mother's in the loony bin. She's schizophrenic.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful singer, jazz singer, apparently. And it's a long and involved story, but at 16, I was expelled, and I came to London, and within 6 weeks, I landed the role in To Sell With Love.
One of the reasons I wanted to get into your early days is because having to live in that world and sort of learning acting automatically is kind of fascinating to me. I just think it must have shaped how your perspective on the world a bit.
That's a brilliant observation, and that's what I've been doing all my life. The biggest song I ever wrote was called Obsession. The chorus is, "Who do you want me to be to make you sleep with me?" I mean,
sure.
How on the nose can I be about it? And the truth of the matter is, in the British school system, which is masturbatory and cruel and wicked and absurd and should be changed, as it has been over, this is decades ago. This is in the 13th century, but I learned a lot, man. I learned how to fit into whatever particular shape is required, and that made me able to act. I've never ever said that I was an actor. I've never said that, and yet I've been 150 hours of American television, 40 movies, but I don't see myself as that, or a musician.
Really?
I wouldn't call myself a musician or an actor or any of that bollocks. I have just been in the right place at the wrong time in the wrong place at the right time and done whatever was necessary in order to, get through the next 24 hours. And I'm not being cute here because I think it's way too, yes, I've studied under, Jean Genet, Lindsay Kemp, I actually sort of worked with, who recently passed away. God bless
Oh, you
him.
worked with Lindsay Kemp?
I did. I would go to a lot of the mime things that David did. And
so for listeners who don't know, Lindsay Kemp, who just recently passed away, was a pioneer in the art of mime and was a mentor to Bowie and apparently Mr. DeBar as well.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
And many others. I mean, a lot of people that got into fashion and different experimentation of music. But yeah, Bowie really took to it. But it was a time of exploration and new experiences, and that's really all I've ever had was the yearning for something new, something to spark my interest. So being other people helps.
Yeah.
Because you can have relationships that possibly you wouldn't have had. You see, the thing is, man, if you decide who you are, you're fucked. Because it doesn't mean anything. I mean, you change. It prevents you from learning or growing or being something new. Okay, I'm a junkie. Okay, so you'll die a junkie. Okay, I'm a depressive. I'll die. And nothing has been clearer to me than these wonderful people, Bourdain, Chris Cornell, all of these people, Robin Williams. I understand depression. I understand it.
Yeah.
But I refuse to be depressed. I mean, and I'm not being in any way
glib or anything.
Or flippant about this, because I understand that depression is an illness and so on and so forth. It's just, it's not. I don't have that.
I think another reason that I was excited to have you on the show, of many, is that you're a survivor. You've been through a lot of low periods.
Oh yes,
and you've kicked your way through.
Yes,
and Brian has as well. Yeah. And that's something that I think you share. And also, I don't know if we talked about it in the email or the text, but so Brian's a very, very well-known drag performer who was on RuPaul's Drag Race a couple times.
How great.
And since we were talking about, different identities.
Yeah, it's interesting that you just said that, because I was a little while ago, my therapist had said something that caught me off guard. She's like, now maybe we can try to figure out who you are. And I was like, what? I was like, figure out who I am. What does that even mean?
It means nothing.
Right.
I'll tell you what it means.
Yeah.
Get a new therapist.
Yeah, exactly.
or put on a mini dress and go to the mall. I mean,
That sounds like a good Tuesday. Yeah.
I mean, God bless everybody, but you see, this is it. This is psychology, spirituality by numbers, and it's absurd. You learn from experience. This is the only 3 rules you need. Be kind, be cool, be courageous, and have a great wardrobe.
There you go.
And you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Recovery, listen, it's almost like, what do you do for a living? I recover.
Yeah.
What is it, a job?
Yeah.
Come on, man. We'll live. Listen, this is it right here. Me and you on the couch. That's it. Just don't put the dress on just now.
It's too early. Is that it? It's too early.
It's too late.
This is coming from a man who's had quite a spectrum of sartorial.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh yeah, close. It's so funny. I was thinking the other day about the notion of deciding who you are and being that for the rest of your life, and I've always been very imagistic in terms of visual in fashion. I love fashion.
Yeah.
Well, let me put that another way. I love style.
Yeah,
There's a big difference, between those two things. But if you are in an outfit, it definitely informs the way you're going to behave. If I walk into a party in a kilt, it's very different from walking in there in a grey suit,
Right.
and wingtips, or whatever they call those shoes.
Yeah.
But
I think I'm actually wearing wingtips.
But it's just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people go, well, you're such a peacock. I go, well, in many ways, dear, yes. And I love to wear clothes. I love it. That's right. But the other thing is narcissism.
Yeah.
Got me sober.
That's interesting.
How should you think about this?
Yeah, how explain that. Yeah.
Well, I looked in the mirror. I looked like Iggy Pop's granddad. That's why.
Right. Sure.
So
vanity can help a lot. I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Narcissism. I'm not talking about anything highfalutin. I'm talking about vanity.
Yeah.
And I looked in the mirror and I said, oh, gee, what on earth? Are you kidding? That's not part of the...
Wait, hang on a minute. Hang on now.
Yeah. That's no good. And it took me, because I only used drugs hardcore for about 7 years. And the first 3 were fantastic.
Right.
That's the tricky bit.
Yeah. That's the tricky bit.
Really great period.
But this is back in the 70s where coke, it hadn't quite become psychotic yet. People hadn't become psychotic, and it was more of discovery of what you could do and what you could do. And we're on the road. We're 19, we're 20, 21 Silverhead. We're in Boise, Idaho, and the parking lot is full of young girls and their boyfriends were quarterbacks and milk-fed young American youths that wanted to murder us because we were in silver jumpsuits and yellow platform boots, and the girls wanted to fuck us and the guys wanted to kill us, and it was fabulous. and it was all fueled by Peruvian, energy,
marching powder,
chemical substances. But then it gets oldie and it strangles you and you turn into an asshole, And I did, and and I think what I take away from that was it was just so awful on the people around me.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole vibe is right now is you've got kindness and thoughtfulness about other people is reciprocal. For instance, if anybody asks me for advice, and this all happened with the radio show, people would ask me, well, I'm this, I'm that, and I'm recovering, and I'm strung out, and my wife left me, and all of those things, and I encourage people to tell people that they're, tell them of their pain, because people are dying to help you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
People are longing to say something positive because they'll walk away from that going, I listened. I gave what I thought was, an answer. You give answers to people to help them that you wouldn't even give yourself.
That's right.
So when you do that, that stays with you. And then you learn from somebody's pain. Somebody will say, look, this is happening. I'm gay, but I can't tell my dog. Or whatever the fuck it is. And, and then you say, well, why don't you get a cat? or whatever. I'm being glib because but when you walk away and you've helped somebody, man, that you benefit from that.
Right.
So I'm just trying to push that home, and that's what AA is. That's what the vibe of Alcoholics Anonymous is people feeling good about themselves, self-respect, self-esteem. It's all about people with low self-esteem and low self-worth, and they drink and they pretend there's something else, and they act out on that. This is very simplistic, obviously, so it's a lot deeper than this, but it gives, I think, this whole sponsorship, which I've always had problems with, like they know better than you do. Well, they don't, let me tell you.
Right.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows an answer. You're the answer to your problems. Yeah. They can love you and they can hold you and embrace you and be there for you, but they can't do it for you. And
what about the aspect, though, of, like you said, sharing problems with each other? Well,
that's it. I think it's a mutual. I think if you understand the mutuality of the relationship with somebody that you're considering a sponsor, but the last thing you can do in the world is deify them. Or think of them on a pedestal, because they're not, buddy. As likely as not, they'll fall off the pedestal. I mean, the recidivism of it is immense. And I think those who stay sober do the most service. That's why I call myself a humble servant on the radio. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's ironic that a flamboyant idiot like me would call himself humble, but that's the fucking point.
Yeah,
sure.
So they take a lot of my crap because they know that I know that it's crap. And I'm just having fun.
Yeah. Sure.
Because I believe in having fun.
Yeah, you have a pretty good sense of humor.
Yes, everything is funny to me. I mean, that's why Banana Skin, that's why Chapman, that's why the Silence were all about accidents. Mm-hmm. Everything we laughed at was Buster Keaton, avoiding accidents, which I thought was Dada, which is surreal and beautiful. Buster Keaton was an amazing artist, and his work will live forever. But, so I try and have fun with the idea. So it doesn't become profound.
Yeah, and serious.
So
and meaning.
If you listen, I just recently revisited Bill Moyer's interviews with Joseph Campbell for PBS. I don't know if you're aware of either of those people.
Yeah,
aware of them, but I don't know those.
Joseph Campbell is the masks of
the mythology.
He was the mythology scholar. Yeah, and the masks of God.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You could do yourself a real favor and go and watch that, because this guy was so connected to something that is so unbelievably pure and loving and brilliant and intellectual at the same time, and yet very clear and humanistic. But as seen through mythology, that is, the mythology of all cultures can really tell us and show us who we are, and what this all is, and what does it mean, and what do we want to be doing, and what is our goal? What is the goal?
Right.
Is there a goal? There isn't a goal. This is the goal.
Yeah.
This is the goal.
Yes, exactly.
This is the Oscar right here.
Right.
Yeah.
To think about projecting one day, I'm going to make love to Scarlett Johansson and Ryan Gosling. It's bullshit. Yeah. This is the goal right here as he sips his water.
I've heard you talk about other spiritual pursuits that have supplemented your recovery, like Eckhart Tolle and what are there any other examples?
Krishnamurti, but because Krishnamurti was, I think, inspired everyone. Here's a 19-year-old in the early 1900s where the matrons of the Victorian England went to India, as they all did, because India was owned by the British. And, a very young Krishnamurti was saying, hey, this is it right here. There is nothing else but this. But now, and we don't judge or condemn ourselves. We observe ourselves. And all that philosophy was taken by just about everybody, Christopher Isherwood and so on and so forth. So many different writers and poets and philosophers, Joseph Campbell being one of them, who quotes Krishnamurti constantly, informed Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle, it's so funny because people will try and find a way not to be transcend. The amount of people I've heard, I hate his voice. I mean, kiss my ass. Right. You hate God's voice. We're all gods, but he's a profound thinker, and it's all about existentialism. It's not in a Montmartre, artist, poet, painter way, but in a humanistic way, in a day-to-day life.
Right.
Here we are in Hollywood.
Right.
We're not in a ashram in Bangladesh right now.
Yeah.
Although you can be.
Sure.
There's
a little bit of travel arrangements.
And it'll help. It'll help when you're on the 101, which is a freeway.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles, you guys, which is constantly crammed, And now I live out in Pasadena, this gorgeous house, but I just avoid going on these freeways.
Yeah.
But I had such fun with you guys last time, So
thanks. I was thrilled that you did that interview and that you're back now.
But Krishnamurti and Eckhart Tolle are really good people to go to.
Yeah.
And read and absorb and listen to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember one of the books, The Power of Now, I read once and nothing stuck. And then I read it again and then my whole mind just blew open.
Well, here's the thing. That's a very, very keen observation to be able to say that, because the truth is in front of you all the time.
Right.
It's up to you whether you see it, read it, feel it, and and get off on it. I mean, it's like, if you're thinking in terms of physical intimacy, love, intimacy, that exchange, somebody that you would think would be absolutely the last person on earth you'd want to couple with or live with or make love to or be made love to by, you can be completely wrong about them. Yeah. And you meet them 6 months later, you go, oh my God, but we change in a second. People.
That's true, yeah.
So if you like, for instance, let's take one thing. Krishnamurti would talk about grudges. Mm-hmm. And how absurd that notion is. When you really think about it, somebody did you wrong a year ago.
Yeah.
And you hold on to it. And you identify that person. That person is not that person anymore.
Right.
That person has changed.
Sure.
But we want to stick with what's comfortable. More so, we want to stick with what we think is true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a thought.
Yeah.
It's not a
in that
feeling.
instance, if someone does you wrong, it's essentially a transaction. It's a situation.
Yeah, I think you're almost happy about it.
That's right.
Because it makes you feel, well, I got him sussed out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's an asshole. Right, good, got it. Okay, great.
Let me tell you another thing about him. That kind of,
and then that grows. Once you get used to thinking of people like that, then you've had it. But so that's why one of the tenets of AA is really good, that you do, what's the word? You do like get in touch with people who you...
Amends?
Yeah. You can make amends with people that you fucked over, and that's freeing. And I really believe that. But the terrible thing about that is, 10 years go by.
Yeah.
Hi, Billy. This is Michael. Michael who?
Yeah, right.
This is Michael Desbarres. Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember you. Well, listen, I just wanted to say that I'm sorry about fucking your wife. I don't care. I'm glad you did. I'm not with her anymore. I hate her.
Uh-huh.
Right.
I'm just being glib here and making this shit up.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's good for you, maybe, to get it off you. But the person you're actually talking to, it's worse.
Yeah. You're opening up something again.
Yeah.
Yes, you're something that's dead.
Yeah,
and
that's
buried,
right.
and now they are you because you want to clear your conscience, go up and ruin this person's life with your confession,
right?
And it's like, that is so perfect description of a program. I'm not interested in programs.
Yeah.
I'm not a computer. I'm hardware. I'm not software, dear. Get out of here.
That reminds me of something I wanted to ask you about. I was recently watching a Steve Jones interview. And for listeners who are not familiar with Steve Jones, he hosts Jonesy's Jukebox, a terrific show on KLOS, and also is the guitarist from the Sex Pistols, the Professionals, and was in a band with Michael called Checkered Past. As mentioned in the terrific documentary, Who Do You Want Me to Be, which is that set for release yet?
Well, this licensing business, just to be technical, if you use songs, and I'm in a Clint Eastwood movie, Johnny Depp, whatever, all of the things I've done, you pay for it. Right. So we spent the last 2 years literally paying for all of these things that are in the documentary. The filmmaker, genius, brilliant, Josh Weinstein, fantastic, Freaks and Geeks and Mystery Science Theater, brilliant guy, and did a great job on the documentary. But we've had to, do all this licensing business, which is just about done. But I don't care, because the documentary is so in and of itself doesn't, it's timeless because it's about my beginnings and where I went with stuff and things.
Sure.
So much has happened since the movie was made.
Yeah.
But the core of the idea of longevity, tenacity, and good vibes is through that movie. So, I can't wait for people to see it.
And one of the things, this ties into actually my original thing I was going to ask, is that at the screening, I got to see it at the Cinefamily, and I was thrilled to. The room was filled with people from your past. E.G. Daily, Steve Jones. I mean, just pick a number of names. They're there. And I was telling Brian earlier that one of the things I'm always struck by is that you've maintained relationships with seemingly everyone that you've been in touch with. So if you did burn bridges, you repaired them. And I wanted to know what your thoughts are on something like the Steve Jones situation that I'm going to mention, where he talks about when Checkered Past was coming to an end, he was living with you and Pamela. Then you went away, and he had been off heroin, but still partying. And then
I love that word partying. This is classic. Yeah,
I was talking about that with my friend.
This is not a fucking party.
That's not partying. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what's a better word for it. Grim determination to destruction, but that's not one word. So I'm trying to find.
Junkie.
Yeah. So doing the junkie thing again.
Yeah.
So he wasn't partying. He was getting back into the junkie thing again and ended up selling a bunch of Pamela's records and a bunch of your clothing, basically betraying your trust. So I wanted to get your thoughts on how to deal with that when you're at the point with someone who you love dearly.
Get new clothes.
Yeah. Because obviously you and Steve, are over all of that. But at the time, what do you do?
We were very disappointed, but we understood. I was a recovering junkie myself.
Only about 3 years away from it at that point.
So I'm very familiar with the behavior. Yeah. I did the same thing to others. So in many ways, when you're wronged, you've really got to look at it because it is not aimed at you. It happened to be my leather clothes.
Sure.
And you know how much I love clothes. And but it's not about that. It's about the disease of heroin or alcohol, whatever it is. So I was at a point then when I was newly sober, so I was hyper aware. Of course, he had to leave because we had an infant child, and he would come in with a burnt spoon.
Yeah.
In his hand. So, which was a shame. And, I love Steve with all my heart. I think that Steve Jones is the best rock and roll guitar player I ever heard. And I've played with most of them with more feel than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about notes, baby. It's how you feel it when you play it. And I also think he's one of the most intelligent people I've ever known. Because if you think, well, what is an intellectual? What does that mean? The guy couldn't read or write for most of his life. But that's not what intelligence is.
Right.
Intelligence, as I understand it, is somebody who's capable of original thought.
Mm.
So Steve Jones has incredible instincts. They call it street instincts, knowing who somebody, is, and as he would say, sussing them out, immediately, which he has in spades. But he's also just very, very smart about life, and I had deep admiration for Steve, as did Miss Pamela and my son. Adored him, and it was a sad day. But that whole Checkered Past thing was uncool in many ways because the whole band was, shall we say, chemically altered, and
except for you,
and I was newly sober.
Right.
So I'm standing in the middle of a coke addict, a heroin addict, and a drunken rhythm section, and with a big book.
Oh my God!
Going, fellas.
Page 3 here. There's something here that
I never did that.
No.
I never did that. They'd wipe their ass with page 3.
Page 3 is fairly slow and boring.
But for me, it was a real transition because
I'm sorry, the coffee's here. I'm going to go get it. Hey, Katya, guess what?
What is it, Craig?
We have a fabulous new sponsor that we'd like to talk about.
Oh my God, I can't wait to hear about this.
I know, me either, right? Me either. This company is called Care Of, spelled CARE/of. Care Of is a monthly subscription vitamin service that delivers completely personalized vitamin and supplement packs right to your door.
Right to my door?
Right to your door.
To my door. That is so great because sometimes I'm so vitamin depleted that I can't walk to the street to fetch them. So that they come to my door is a great boon to my overall health.
To personalize your order, Care of has a fun online quiz that asks you about your diet, health goals, and lifestyle choices, and it only takes 5 minutes to find out what vitamins and supplements you specifically need.
Folic acid, B12, D6, magnesium sulfate, hydrochloride, peroxide. Take the quiz.
Take the quiz and find out. 90% of people fall short of FDA-recommended guidelines for at least one vitamin or nutrient. Take Care of's quiz and get the vitamins you need to get back on track and reach your health goals.
Fabulous.
Once again, they're delivered right to your door in personalized, easy-to-remember daily packs. And Care of puts honesty first, providing all the research that supports each of their recommendations backed by a scientific advisory board. A portion of every sale goes towards the Good Plus Foundation, which provides expectant mothers in need with valuable prenatal vitamins.
Vitamins for young mothers?
That's right.
Lovely gal.
Fabulous. Lovely gal. You can track your progress with the Care of app and earn rewards when you remember to take your vitamins. So remember, you have to remember to do that.
Oh, you have to remember to take your vitamins.
So set an alarm, set a reminder.
That's right.
And you can modify your monthly subscription box at any time, easily. They have specialty offerings, too. There's vegan and vegetarian supplement options available to match your dietary needs.
Lovely.
And they also offer pre- and postnatal supplements with accompanying research to help mothers and babies alike.
Oh, mothers and babies?
That's right.
Benefiting and thriving,
the babies.
Surviving. I love that.
That's right. And jiving.
Ooh.
Care of's delicious, nutrient-packed quick stick powders can be added to your monthly delivery for an extra easy boost whenever you need it.
Fabulous.
So I filled this out, and I got us a bunch of supplements. And it was fun. It was easy.
Yeah.
And I was able to personalize it for our needs, which we won't maybe divulge to listeners right now.
Those are private needs that
They're
will be
very
fulfilled
private needs.
privately. Yes.
Privately. I'll just say that there's a lot of cranberry.
Yes. UTIs be damned.
That's right, God damn it. And we're happy to pass along a very special offer to you. For 25% off your first month of personalized Care of vitamins, visit takecareof.com and enter WV. That's TAKECAREOF.com and enter WV. Remember, that's for 25% off your first month of personalized Care of vitamins.
WV for you and me.
That's right, baby. And also to go back to the Steve Jones thing, I wanted to mention that also because that's an example of someone you had to not give up on, but you had to do a tough love thing on. And sometimes people worry when they do that the person might go away, forever. But in this case, it's a great example of eventually he turned everything around.
Well, yeah, that's a simplistic view.
Sure. I mean, I like to go simplistic and then get worse.
I mean, the thing is that, and I say it with love, and the thing is people don't ever go back to where they were. They proceed into another universe, and he became another person that was not maybe it was my vibe with Mr. of looking after him, and now we couldn't do that anymore. You learn a lot about yourself. Things change, and you don't see one another, but you love one another. You don't have to be around somebody all the time to love them.
Sure.
And I haven't seen him in months, or spoken to him. But that's not required, I mean, we change.
Well, I think it's a perfect example of what you were talking about before. He became a different person.
Yeah, and he leads his own life. Malcolm. Eventually they got the money, and money changes everything. As
your song,
Miss Lauper said. Yeah, but and money don't come in. Yeah, but so he went into a different lifestyle.
Yeah,
he lives in Beverly Hills. He has liposuction, and he's a Sex Pistol, and
a daily radio show,
and he's brilliant, and he lives a different life, and I don't live that kind of life, I live in Pasadena with my girl, my cats, and the garden, and we grow vegetables and stuff like that, man, and life goes on, and I'm just really happy that we were very close for a while, wrote some good songs, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. But essentially, the simplistic again version, there's a happy end to a story. Because sometimes I think a lot of times people who listen to the show sometimes will message us about concerns related to either family members or themselves, related to substance abuse, etc. So anytime that there's a way to point out something that's essentially a happy end to the story.
Yeah. Well, there's no real, happy endings are in massage parlors.
Well, that's what I also thought. Well, because I know Steve's habits, and I thought that might have, yeah.
But the ticket, here's the thing, man. All you got to know is it ain't their fault.
Right.
Yeah. And that will give you a loving perspective. And then it's up to you to how much you can take, or how much you want to take, or how much they can give, and take from you. It's minute by minute, second by second. People change and boom.
What about people getting addicted to being quote unquote compassionate? Like, say you were like, well, it's okay. I understand you did that, but you can stay in the house. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes people ruin their own situation because they want to be there for someone. When they put someone else's needs above their own. Yeah, but you see what's
happening is they are enabling themselves.
That's right, exactly.
People don't think about, I'm enabling him to be able to use heroin. What you're doing is you're enabling yourself to live with that. So you're trying to find a reason to be okay with the serial killer that's sitting opposite you watching Netflix.
Yeah.
So it works in many different ways, in mysterious ways. So in life, look, I don't. If I saw Steve today, I would throw my arms around him.
Sure, right.
And no matter what, and no matter even the people that have allegedly. So many business deals, rip-offs, rock and roll, 19 years old. There's so many grudges that one could hold on to.
Yeah.
But I've lived a really pretty cool life, and it would be absolutely disgusting, and to have any kind of those grudges. And the other thing is it's okay to just say, I won't deal with that person anymore.
I think that's an important thing to talk about, though, too.
You've got to say, let go. You let go of people that are toxic, and you just get sick of the toxicity. And you're, as I said in the past, I'm only human. Yeah. So you've got to cut the excess, the poison away, man. Bye.
Yeah. Brian, what do you think? I think sometimes people feel guilty about doing that.
Sure. Yeah. But you got to take care of yourself first. I think that's the key there. You gotta, because if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of somebody else?
Exactly. To paraphrase RuPaul.
It's true, but there are other levels to that. That is that, people who are in pain that you help, and it's a very, very flimsy vibe, because somebody might be in your life for the reasons that are not really predictable, in that they need you. It's great to be needed. Yeah. Don't you think? So if they're not bad, it's easy to say, just if they're not good to you, then just let them go, cut them. It's not that easy, because you're learning.
Yeah,
I think the vibe is you've got to step outside of yourself. That's why Krishnamurti has been so effective for me, because I'm a passionate person, but my passion is sometimes, really cause a lot of issues and problems for me. Because I'm so impulsive. But if you step outside and you look at what you're doing, and you're not condemning or justifying it like we talked about earlier, it's really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Where you don't go, you've done this and I'm this and that. It's sometimes people in your life are there for you to learn an enormous lesson.
Yeah.
And I found that to be true. People that I, was so... because I came from such a funky childhood with the parental thing, my relationships have been pretty quirky. I would like somebody that wasn't likable, so they would like me, and then I would like them, and my parents, and etc. Now no therapist has ever taught me this.
Sure.
No therapist has ever taught me anything.
Have you ever gone to a therapist?
Yes, and he asked me for, how big Jimmy Page's dick was.
Oh my God!
We're jumping ahead, but by the way, how big is
ahead? Yeah. Well, so the band was called Led Zeppelin.
But that also, I can see how that could maybe put your trust in them. In a little bit
it's bullshit, isn't it? And I'm being glib here, but I've never. I mean, honestly, that's what happened. He just wanted to, but that happens a lot to me. Because rock and roll, to a certain age group, is all they've got in many ways. What happened before, which I could give a shit about, I mean, on the radio, I'm reintroduced to it because I have to play these songs every day, and it's beautiful, and I believe in repetition. Mantras are, those 3-minute songs are mantras to me, and and millions of other people, but... In my own life, somebody comes up to me and talks to me. It's just, are you kidding me?
With what?
With questions about Robert Plant's bollocks.
Oh yeah, right. Just very. What
was Jim Morrison like? You know, I my answer to that is I wish he was around for you to ask him.
Yeah.
But he ain't.
Yeah. So you've been over 100 television shows.
150 hours of television.
150 hours of television.
Yeah.
Do you have any like horror stories from working on some of them, or
No.
best experience? They've all been
fantastic. I love the profession. I respond to it for some reason. I love working collaboratively. It's really my favorite thing. I get to know everybody immediately. I know that all their names by the second day, merely because of the lighting. But you know, and I get, you know, all of the girls and guys in the makeup departments and the costuming, and it's just it's like suspended animation, and I love the word action. So when you hear that word, everybody's so tense and so like, whoa, you know, like this is important shit, you know, like everybody's depending on everybody. The theater, especially the theater where you're going out there for 2 hours. And, you know, I love doing live theater. It was like so scary. I mean, I narrated 200 Motels at Disney Hall.
That's right. For listeners who are not familiar with that, it's this epic Frank Zappa.
Yeah, and it was at Disney Hall. I spent 4 days rehearsing it and narrated the whole fucking thing. It's a 130-piece orchestra. Yeah. 30 actors.
Oh my God.
And 20 dancers, and Frank Gehry and Esa-Pekka Salonen conducting the LA Philharmonic.
Yeah.
I've been scared in my life. I wanted to call the cabs or Uber, whatever. Yeah. It was so bad. You know, I was in a tuxedo and I was thinking, oh, please, God, you know, let this go great. But it's that adrenaline that has been the source of my life.
Sure.
I've faced so many. I replaced Robert Palmer and went and sang a Live Aid.
Yeah, for listeners,
and everybody says to me, "Oh, they're big shoes to fill." I say, "I brought my own fucking shoes." But at the same time,
they're not making me wear his wardrobe, guys. They're not.
No, really. But bravado is assumed. For the most part.
Meaning that
you have to act as if you don't give a shit.
Sure.
Right. Well, Brian, you can speak to that as well, right?
Oh, yeah. Fake it till you make it. In those moments of like extreme dread, you just kind of barrel through it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know, you got 3 stage hands, you know, pushing you on the stage.
No other choice.
There's no other choice.
Yeah, just get the fuck on
There's
stage.
no other choice.
Yeah.
You know, when you're all done up and you're here and you go, oh, God, here we go.
Yeah.
But that moment passes really quickly.
Sure.
You know, especially if you get the first few lines right. You know, and that happened. You know, it was only one show. It was the scariest thing I've ever done.
Wow. Do you think it was because it was one show?
I think so.
Yeah.
And it was being filmed and it was being recorded. And Matt Groening is in the front with Eric Idle. And, you know, I mean, it was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And you had to be good.
It's not Boise. Yeah.
My girl, Britta, who I love with so much, and she moved out of our house
during this
for
process.
2 weeks before the gig.
God.
Because I was unbearable.
Yeah.
And
now
more than usual.
When you're unbearable like that, how does that present itself? Are you just like, I don't know about this? Is it a lot of talk about it, or is it just in your behavior?
Fear.
Yeah,
sure.
Just real hardcore fear of failure, letting everybody down and all of the usual crap. But you see, when you get through those moments, you do learn. Not very much. Because it's always there. You know, I just did MacGyver again.
This is Michael in his role as Murdoch. There's another one. Couldn't let the moment pass without letting our audience enjoy
I sound
that.
like Iggy.
Yeah, you do actually. The one where you get electrocuted, you kind of look like Iggy too.
Yeah, man. I love Iggy.
And you were even
me?
in some of those disguises in drag.
Yeah, the first one.
Right.
Yeah, that was my first episode.
Totally.
My first episode I was in drag, and it's so interesting on Twitter, you know, because they put up people that like me put up footage of me in drag, and you know. I can say I've been in drag my whole life, but in this particular episode, it was the first episode.
Sure.
And I remember my response to all of the tweets, by the way, this last week or two, see, the thing is these shows are shown somewhere all the time.
Yeah.
When you've done Father Dowling's Mysteries, Melrose Place, Seinfeld, Just Like Me, all of these shows that I've done, and I've done so many. It's just look at it, IMDb. If you've got the time,
list,
take a look. And they're shown now.
Right.
All the time. So you're there forever.
Right.
Yeah.
So therefore they relate to you as being 35 years ago.
Sure.
So did CBS when they rebooted MacGyver.
Right.
Right. So then I got a call, and I did it, and they were great, and I love them. It's an interesting thing that you process, because Richard Dean Anderson, who was MacGyver and who was a tremendously popular show, on ABC. It ran for 7 years after Monday Night Football and was an amazingly successful show, which the intelligentsia never watched.
Sure.
So it was very much a populist show, which I would rather be any day of the fucking week.
Absolutely.
Popular rather than admired. Fuck off. It was really fun. And then they'd done a couple... Oh, no, they'd done one season, that's right. And then I got a call, saying, would you come and play this character? Actually, it wasn't even Murdoch, but they advertised it as Murdoch after I did it, which was confusing because I didn't play Murdoch. I played Nicholas Hellman, who was an assassin.
Murdoch's mentor?
Ready to kill Murdoch, the new Murdoch, which is brilliantly played by David Desmalchian, who is an incredible actor and a great guy, and he's in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and he's gone all the way. He's a brilliant actor, and I loved him from the beginning. And because on social media in the first season I said good things, I said he's great, he's wonderful, he's a fantastic actor, the network went, okay, well, he digs it, so that's good. Because Richard said, this is horrible RDA.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't think he actually... I think he did expound on how it wasn't very good and all of that, and the violence, and that's up to him.
Sure.
Selleck is the same with the new Magnum. He's like saying this sucks, and we want you to be in it, and I wouldn't be in it, and I am Magnum, and see, when you get lost, see, this is the thing, man. How many Hamlets have there been?
Sure.
About 3 or 4 at least, right?
I think 7.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. I'm forgetting about
years.
That's right.
It's you know what it is like? It's like when the Silverhead, my first band, 20 years old, in drag, literally. I mean, and full makeup, all of it. Beautiful sequence, velvet, fabulous silk. Here we are, silver boots, beautiful. For the first 3 weeks of the tour, then it was all those clothes were stolen, and we were wearing shit, But
sounds again another parallel with some of your.
Sounds familiar.
I'm sure that's familiar. How funny! High five. But so what the vibe though is that those songs, when people say you should do a Silverhead reunion, I said, would Anthony Hopkins play Romeo?
Right.
I mean, it's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
That's 16 and Savage. It's not 70 and Savage, is it?
Yeah.
It's a different person.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want to be somebody's memory.
Right.
You
don't want to put on the clothes that you put on at that age.
No, I do that for my girl.
Of course.
But that's the only audience I need. But the thing is that. But that hasn't been really by the rest of the band, has not been appreciated particularly.
Oh, okay.
And I understand that. It's just that I've done a lot of things since. And
you've kept moving.
Yes, and I don't want to, ever do anything again.
Sure.
So therefore, when they asked me to do Murdoch again, they didn't ask me to do Murdoch again. They asked me to play another character, but it became Murdoch because the fans said it's Michael Des Barres. Then clearly, what the fuck is it?
Yeah, right.
Who's
on
he
MacGyver.
playing? What's he playing?
Yeah.
Terry Hatcher?
Michael Des Barres
as Terry Hatcher.
Denied it.
Yeah. I love her, by the way. She's a great girl.
That's why you were able to do her role so well.
Well, I've done other things with her. Lois and Clark,
you worked with her in 2 separate...
few other shows.
Yeah.
Superboy or something. I have stories though. I mean, gosh, But American television has been so amazing for me. You know, I did the first season of Jump Street with a guy called Johnny Depp.
Who?
And he was so... I could not believe how beautiful he was.
Right.
I remember Steve came up to see me in Vancouver where we were shooting it. And we were in the trailer, and Johnny was a Sex Pistol fanatic, as is evidenced by his current incarnation with the Hollywood Vampires.
Right.
And Alice and Joe Perry and those guys.
And he was originally intending on being a musician.
The Kids. He was a musician.
I mean, like,
He was a musician. He was in a band in Florida, and Nick Cage, etc. You know the story. But Johnny was doing it, and I remember we were in the trailer, my trailer, and he was playing guitar with Steve. This is a pretty fascinating moment. And then Johnny fell asleep. He's just exhausted. You know, those when you're the star of a series, it's incredibly tiring. And we were looking at him, these hardened, grizzled rock and rollers, looking at this early 20s god, Dionysus.
Yeah.
He made Jim Morrison look like Mr. Rogers. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
And he goes, and Jonesy looks at me and goes, he's not got a black head on him.
That's another example of Steve Jones's incredible wit.
He's the funniest guy alive.
He's hilarious because he'll interview. He's so funny in his interviews that his mind is just constantly churning.
Well, it's not. It's but the thing is that he's not stuck.
Yeah, right.
It's exactly what you're saying. He's not stuck in so what was, Ginger Baker really like? It's not.
Actually, I'm thinking of another parallel now. So when you were saying that the people who have rock and roll and that's it, and that's the thing that they sort of, their fantasies are in, and that's all of that, and then they can't help but sort of talk to you as if you're maybe a product or something like that. It's exactly similar to what Brian gets sometimes with the drag race phenomena.
Well, that's your job.
Yeah.
And
no, I'm thinking also the culture too of that people seize onto it. It's so meaningful to them.
But it's their only way of they don't know that you really like to play Monopoly,
right?
So they're not going to ask you about Monopoly,
and we keep that off the podcast. So I'll bleep that, but that's fine.
Yeah. But the thing about that is you've got to give them what they want. I mean, you're an entertainer, so that's for your job. But I'm just saying to you guys, on a personal level, it depends where you're at. How you respond. With me, it's different.
I mean, also in the personal setting. In the personal setting, as you described
and
before.
I've let go of all of that.
Yeah.
That's not who I am. And therefore, when one is reminded of something, then you can be courteous, but only to a degree.
Sure. And in an interview situation, it's different than you're just sitting around at a dinner party or something, and then someone comes at you with a whole laundry list of
it's a drag.
Facts and figures or something like that. Or
it's a drag.
Things.
And what my girl does is she just goes, Michael. We have a system.
There's an emergency in the kitchen.
Are there any? This is kind of a stupid question, but I'm just thinking of any classic roles in Hollywood movies that you would like to play.
Oh, that I would like to play. Yeah. I'd like to do a piece about vampirism, which I'm fascinated by. Because I really think I am one in many respects. My father was an occultist.
Oh, really?
And I have studied that. And I would like to portray somebody that explored the darker side of life.
Yeah.
I think you'd be quite good at that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you look like a really stylish vampire.
I did explore it.
Please go on.
There were just
please. Let's explore that.
Well, there were no cameras, magic is a ritual.
This is magic with a K at the.
If you want, obviously, smart ass. And so it's ritualistic, and I love ritual.
Yeah,
but it was all, in retrospect, done by a young guy who just wanted to experiment. And, the British, how can I put this, upper class is the most perverse group of people on the planet.
Really?
Yes. And because there's a fleeting elitism that is now gone.
Mm-hmm.
So my father was the last of the, my father apparently, as a young man, would go to the Thames, the docks on the River Thames,
Mm-hmm.
and the Chinese sailors had bunks where they would smoke opium.
Mm-hmm.
And my father told me in one of the rare moments I saw him that he would go to these places and smoke opium, and there'd be all the Chinese sailors all stoned, and then occasionally you'd see a black top hat
Okay.
with white gloves
Yeah.
hanging off that bunk, and Lord Alfred,
Sure.
lying there at his head. And that image stayed with me.
Yeah.
And because I was interested in Crowley and then Jimmy, and all of that, and because Jimmy Page had his tarot deck, he had his cloak.
Did he buy his home?
He bought Boleskine, which was in the north of England, and
that was Aleister Crowley's residence? Yeah.
one of the residences.
Yeah.
Crowley had. And so we're all very into magic with a K.
Mm-hmm.
But I made a switch when I realized that love is what I'm about, and not masturbatory pleasure, because that's all it is. So you try and underscore it with something that you think is magical and different. But the true magic is us here.
Yeah.
There's no lighting that will make our lives any better than we can.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
The best lighting in the world is a light from somebody else's heart coming towards you. That's it.
Yeah.
This is the spiritual spotlight. It's not about excess or extremism. That's not necessary. It's so interesting because the people that are the most confused and angry and fearful are the ones that turn to the black arts, because it gives them some power that they don't have. So it gives them a potency that they don't have. So they can only get off. It's literally, the sexuality of it is literally, I can't be intimate with anybody, so I'm going to fuck a goat. Maybe that'll work.
Yeah.
And I'll feel good about myself.
Right.
And I'm not exaggerating.
No, I know.
That's clearly what that is.
Sure.
And that's for children.
Mm-hmm.
Evil children.
Yeah.
Damien, perhaps.
Yeah.
But for me, fuck off. I mean, I love you. I don't need to go through those rituals. And but for me to understand that, I had to go through that process. It's not some intellectual exercise that you would work out. I mean, I was exposed to that shit, if you'll pardon the pun.
Yeah. Was Crowley a big drug user?
It was a heroin addict his entire life.
Oh. Yeah.
He died alone in a boarding house in Hastings in Sussex, not far from where I was born, living on boiled eggs and heroin.
Damn.
But
they don't have that at Denny's anymore, by the way.
Yeah.
So anyone listening,
but I mean, he did, he was a brilliant guy, and it was the Theosophical Society where Yeats was a part of it, and a lot of William Mathers and a lot of great writers, William Blake, there's a long history of intellectuals who have explored that, and he was one of them. But at that time, the elite children of these dreadful families, of which I was one, were privileged. There was no distractions that quite matched magic.
Mm-hmm.
There's no MTV, there's no computers, no cell phones. This is the early 1900s. So therefore, the elite had all the money in the world.
Right.
I mean, there was either people living in castles or living in mud.
Yeah.
There's nothing in between that. So what are you going to do? You're going to go as far out as you can go.
The most provocative thing available, the
Yeah.
most exclusive thing available.
If you look at the great romantic poets too, and Byron and his lifestyle, it was as perverse as you could possibly imagine, and yet the work was so romantic and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Shelley and Byron is probably the best example of that, mad, bad, and dangerous to know stuff, which is what Keith Richards was.
Yeah.
I mean, Lord Byron was Keith Richards. Keith Richards is Lord Byron with a guitar. It's all the same archetype.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same bad boy, danger. And after a while, you see the transition. Let's take Keith Richards as a symbol of something, which he is, a tremendous symbol to everybody. But what has he been doing for the last 20 years? Smiling.
Right.
Have you ever seen a photograph of Keith Richards where he wasn't smiling?
Not in the last. No.
And he's not bashing at somebody. Fucking kill him, fucking Mick, and anger.
Yeah.
Which is, when you hit the dope thing and you're so doped up and anxious, and Mick is so fit and wants to be a solo star. It's so obvious.
Those classic interviews from the 80s when Keith would rip into him.
Yeah,
They just say, how's you have an album? He's like, yeah, fucking Mick. That would be like the first thing out of his mouth.
Yeah. So all that's gone. And that's a wonderful example of what I'm trying to talk about here. And for your audience to understand that, some people have to go through that in order to achieve some kind of like enlightenment.
Right.
And clearly he's got like all these beautiful children, grandchildren, and
a few decent songs, and
the greatest guitar player, songwriter, you bet, unbelievable, simplistic, brilliant, all about feel, like Steve Jones.
I want to get into a couple things about moments in your life where you overcame adversity. One of which would be after it seemed like you'd be okay, because in the 70s you were in Silverhead and then you were in Detective, and Silverhead was on Deep Purple's label, and then Detective was on Led Zeppelin's label, and the ethos at the time was that the album's not right, so we're going to redo the whole thing, and Zeppelin ended up spending about $1 million right on your record.
Yeah.
You opened for Kiss, all this stuff, sort of just to give the audience an idea of the trappings of that time.
Yeah.
But then in around what year would it be when you were living in LA in the like sort of a tiny apartment and
74?
Oh no! I mean, it's like after. I'm saying like after that when
Detective. When all of that collapsed.
When all that collapsed.
Oh
yes.
yeah, we just had a little house on Vista in Hollywood, and happy as a lark, broke and trying to figure out what to do next. And this is pre-Checkered Past.
Right. And pre-sobriety as well.
Pre-sobriety. After Detective folded, which was an unbelievable journey, when you're under the aegis of Led Zeppelin at their peak, and you are an artist on that label, man, it was so difficult for us, because I loved them, but we were waiting around, for a year or two before we recorded. Gave us $1 million. I mean, what do you expect is going to happen?
Wow. Yeah, some mild mischief.
This is 1977, and so
Coke still was thought of as a good thing then. So
well, it wasn't, because I bought Peru, so it was awful. Then what happened was I did a TV show called WKRP in Cincinnati, and I was the singer in this band called Scum of the Earth, and it was tremendously, hugely responded to.
Yeah,
especially my character was, and as a result, I started to get work as an actor again. And it took off,
And just to clarify for listeners, you had stopped acting for a good long while.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you got into rock.
Yeah, in 72.
Yeah.
But I'd already done To Serve With Love in many plays and many British, TV shows. But then I did The Dirty Show in Town in 71, which was a nude musical.
Oh, really?
A nude musical?
Yeah. Like O Calcutta, and I played an androgynous rock star called Rose. And what happened was Andrew Lloyd Webber saw it and said, And they were doing all the demos for Superstar. So Jesus Christ Superstar. So I ended up singing Judas.
Oh, wow.
And then he went, all right. So then he got me a record deal. That's how I got my record deal.
Really?
It was Andrew and Tim, yeah.
Was that with Robert Stigwood?
You bet. You bet. What a... man, talk about Caligula. Talk about Roman Empire.
Really? I've always been fascinated with Stigwood, but never been able to find much information about him.
Well, you never will.
Because that's how intense it was.
Yes. London at that time was Lionel Bart, a lot who wrote Oliver and couldn't read or write music.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, Lionel Bart, brilliant guy, but gay guys who really created empires of lust. And, there were a lot of willing victims. This is the thing about stardom. You'll do anything. And they played off that somewhat, like what's happening and being, exposed now.
Sure.
Yeah. With Harvey Weinstein, etc. It was like that then in London in the late 60s. But it was like that also in gangsterism, because the thing about rock and roll in those days was, Peter Grant was a gangster.
For those not familiar, he was Led Zeppelin's manager.
Yeah, and he worked with the Yardbirds with Jimmy, and he loved Jimmy so much. And by the way, Peter Grant I adored, but he worked with Don Arden, who was Ozzy's wife's driver.
Yeah.
Peter Grant was Don Arden's driver.
Okay. And and Don Arden, folks, go look him up if you're not familiar with him. There's a documentary on him that's really good. Terrifying man who ripped off scads and scads and scads of bands.
Held Steve Marriott out the window for the publishing.
Oh my God.
So that was that world that I was living in. And but then I did that show, and that show gave me a certain kind of professionalism, even though it was very controversial, because we were naked and I was 19, 20.
Yeah.
And then Andrew goes, okay, so let's get him a record deal. And I got it at Purple Records because Gillan sang Jesus, and Ian Gillan was Deep Purple, blah, 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 blah. And then Silverhead, and then Japan, and then Coke, and then LA, and then Miss Pamela, New York, and oh man. And then Detective, Zeppelin, Jimmy, boom, wow. Years waiting for months and months and months, and drugs and more drugs, and then we made the record. Then we didn't like it. We made it again, and it took us 3
and more drugs.
Dude, I'll tell you, in all seriousness, we took 3 months to get a drum sound.
Right.
Can you imagine? I mean, this is a fact.
God.
I say it all the time. I always quote this, but to put things in perspective for you guys in your bedrooms and your Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Well, we were at the record plant in the sauna, with, naked nubiles, of which there were innumerable nubiles, which is the name of my new band.
Look for that on iTunes and Amazon right now.
Right. And, it's madness,
Sure.
And, but then all of it collapsed, and then me and Miss Pamela, just me and Miss Pamela, and then she got pregnant, and then we were fighting for survival and doing anything, and she did like TV commercials and did a soap opera, and I was living with the biggest coke dealer in town who lived in Benedict Canyon. Then I remember that Robert and Jimmy and everybody would come over, and we'd had all the coke, and it was just, and I couldn't swim, and they threw me in the pool. It was a nightmare. But I mean, a lot of things happened. But things gradually sort themselves out. I got on telly. I started to act again, and then I met Mike Chapman.
Mike Chapman, who's going to be a guest on this show actually very soon.
Oh, how wonderful!
Yeah, him and Maddie, Mike and Maddie are going to be coming to LA, and going to be on the show.
When they do, give him my love.
I certainly will.
Because I love Mike Chapman. I have a deep respect for him. But I met him, and he liked me, and it boom, boom, boom.
And for listeners not familiar yet, Mike Chapman produced all the big Blondie records in the late 70s, wrote and produced Kiss You All Over for Exile, wrote and produced Heart and Soul and Do You Believe in Love for Huey Lewis. The list goes, and also Michael DeBar's I'm Only Human record. He produced that.
But he also did The Sweet.
Ballroom Blitz, Susan, wrote and produced that.
A lot of great glam came out of Mike Chapman. Mike Chapman actually created that sound of glam in England, along with Tony Visconti and Mick Ronson and Bowie, obviously, and Mark. All of that stuff, which I was part of all of that. I mean, there's so many stories of where do you end? But anyway, 81, I did I'm Only Human, and that was the last. We did it in San Francisco. My fan base was basically coke dealers. And we did I'm Only Human, and then I quit. I just couldn't do it anymore. I went to London. I had a semi-hit with I'm Only Human, the single, and came back and went,
So with that audience, so I imagine the shows themselves, there was a lot of people in and out of the bathroom.
Well, here's the thing. Many people who are big rock and roll stars, I've had this conversation with, even while they were up there at Madison Square Garden, knocking a crowd sideways, their minds were in the dressing room.
Oh, wow.
I see.
So you miss all of this.
Right.
All of this magnificent exchange with the audience is bullshit, because you're waiting to go back and cop from some seedy bastard with a Gladstone bag full of coke and heroin and whatever else you're going to want. And that is a sad state of affairs. And I saw that too often.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really sad.
And I thought, okay, man, I've got to stay in the moment, and I can't miss these wonderful, I remember when I played the Garden, and I couldn't wait to get the hell off stage. To get high.
Yeah.
And when you get to that point, it's really the beginning or the ending of your life.
Sure.
And you either say, that's ridiculous, I'm missing the finer moments. Why? So you can get fucked up and talk about yourself when you were 6?
Right.
I remember when I was 6, there was a cat. There was a cat, and we killed a cat, and it was, I know it's bad. And then shut up. Shut up. Thank you. That was very interesting.
Yeah.
I've really learned a lot. I got to go now. Is there a taxi?
It's another thing that Uber's been so helpful with is getting away from those situations.
Really.
Right. A good example of how things like that can rob you of the things that ostensibly are your goals, if you want to say goals even, but the richer experience.
It's also where your money goes.
Oh, sure.
True.
So you
can lose the experience, lose the money.
Everything.
Yeah, it's great.
Everything's gone. Really happy.
One-stop shopping if you just want to sort of piss everything away.
Well, it's not that you want anything. It's that it's an obsession. You can't do anything about it. And that's why I wrote Obsession. When I got sober in 81, I wrote Obsession, the words. And then Holly got hold of it and Mike got hold of it.
Holly Knight, your co-writer on that, who went on to write Ragdoll for Aerosmith and any number
Better Be Good to Me.
Yeah, Better Be Good to Me, which of course Tina Turner covered, and I was co-written with Mike Chapman.
That was a Battlefield, and many, many great songs. Yeah. And I got really blessed to write with her, and I'd written this thing about obsession, which I wrote about drugs, but I had to rewrite it because it was a love song. About a guy who kidnapped a girl, and that's what the song's about. And the song also was the key phrase of my life, which is, who do you want me to be?
Yeah.
Right.
To make you sleep with me, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it was number 1 all over the world, and it changed my life.
But right before that, so you'd written the song, and it was on the soundtrack for the movie A Night in Heaven. It was written for that. And then the movie, which is a bit of a turd of a film, didn't really take off. I don't know what the soundtrack sold. And then you, in the documentary, I remember you were saying something about how you were sort of living in a very, very modestly. There was a couple moments where perhaps you were a male escort.
I don't really want to talk about that too much, other than say for about 18 months there, I was really despondent, and I just lost the interest in the collaborative qualities of work that I was talking about earlier in this interview, and the joy of working with people. I was just absolutely so dismayed at the results of these various situations that had not manifested in quite the way I wanted. And I was in Hamburger Hamlet, and there was a woman who introduced me to other women. And that's all I'll say about it.
That's fair enough.
So you mentioned that period of that 18 months of being despondent. What was like the upswing? How did you get out of that that bad time?
Well, I see everything as a performance. It's either good or it's bad.
Okay.
This was a bad performance.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it was time to
be recast.
And it's around that time when obsession is then covered by an emotion. So it allows you to move on, move into a different...
Well, checkered past, and it was the happening. Drugs were prevalent. I went to Texas with Don Johnson. He was making a movie, and I got a call. Obsession was leaping up the charts all over the world.
Yeah.
And I got a call. I was in Marshall, Texas, and I was having lunch with Ava Gardner. And which in of itself is a hell of a statement.
Yeah, exactly.
Charlton Heston said to me, Michael, I'm only kidding. No. So Ava Gardner was in the movie, and I've loved Ava Gardner, like anybody who loves movies would. Frank Sinatra, the reason... It's so funny, that quote of Ava's Worship, where the press says, why do you, Frank Sinatra? He weighs 120 pounds. What are you doing with Frank Sinatra? She says 110 of it is cock.
Oh, my God.
So I've always wanted to meet her. So I met her, and I got a call. This is true. I got a call saying, come to New York, there's this band that needs a singer, and they have a tour booked. What band? Well, we can't tell you. There's a first-class ticket waiting for you at and there's a limo outside. And there was, and I did, and I left. Bye, Don. And went to New York, got in another limo, went to an office. There's John Taylor and Tony Thompson sweating profusely. And I go, oh, shit, it's the fucking power station. Get It On was like number 10 at the time.
Yeah.
And, because Checkered Past had opened for Duran.
Oh, okay.
And Andy had remembered me.
And for listeners not familiar, I'm sure most of you are with Duran Duran. In about 85, 86, the Duran Duran split into two camps. There was Arcadia.
It's
and
84.
Then there was... Okay.
84, 85. And they split into two camps. One Arcadia with Nick and Simon, and the other with John and Andy Power Station with Robert Palmer and Tony Thompson from Chic and David Bowie. And what happened was they made a record. It's great. Robert Palmer didn't want to tour. It wasn't his audience. There were 20,000 topless girls. This is my audience. So Andy says, I remember that guy. Let's get him. So I spoke with John and Tony and the promoters, in this office. We went to the Power Station studio. I listened to the thing. They took Robert's voice off. They gave me a cassette of just the backing tracks. They put me on the Concorde, flew to London, same night.
Oh, wow, yeah.
In London, picked up yet another Bentley, this beautiful, luxurious life. It was insane.
Yeah.
And then they drove me to the Dorchester, where I checked in, but I had to go right to the studio.
Oh, sure.
I'd listen on the plane. I listen. Get it on, bang it go. Well, you're dirty as he cut and black. Don't look back, can I love you? You know the way Palmer sings?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going, I can't even do a demonstration because your mic will fall apart. But I sing a little higher and harder than that.
A little punchier.
And he's like, he's all sort of reined in.
He's like telling you a secret, whereas you're like, hey, everyone.
Ain't no secrets. So I go right to the studio and I start, he's not there, Andy. Because the point was to go to London was to meet Andy.
Oh,
and
right.
have him say, okay,
sure.
this is cool. So, because you want to hear me sing the songs. So I learned as much as I could in 5 hours on the Concorde, which is all it took. Mm-hmm. In the studio, he doesn't appear for 8 hours.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like been up for like a month.
Right.
And I'm in the studio and then he arrives in a billow of marijuana smoke with two bodyguards, little guy, tiny little geezer.
Yeah.
And arrives. Meanwhile, I got the engineer to set up, Get It On. And as he walked in, I sang perfectly.
Yeah.
One verse, one chorus of Mark Bolan's classic Get It On, Bang a Motherfucking Gong.
Yeah.
He hits the, stop everything, click. Let's go shopping.
Oh, my God.
We went to Vivian Westwood and I spent 80 grand.
Oh.
No, I didn't. I bought a bunch of outfits and I got back on the Concorde.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's good to get like 3 in a week.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And then went back to New York, checked into the Carlisle Hotel, which is divine.
Yeah.
And 2 days later, oh, that's right. Then Don came to New York and we went that night to a Chinese restaurant, very, highfalutin Chinese restaurant, chinoise. And John Taylor's there.
Yeah.
Before we got to the hotel, the restaurant, I got a call from my manager saying, "You're out. Robert Palmer's decided to do the tour." This is true.
God. Yeah.
Right after flying halfway around the world and back.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then Don's there, so we go to eat. It's sort of sad. Who's in the restaurant? John Taylor at another table. Don goes, "Hang on, Mike, I'll be right back." He goes over to John Taylor. He says, "Can I have a word with you? Can we go outside?" Sonny fucking Crockett, this is, right? So John, it turned out, adored Miami Vice.
Sure.
All I know is I went back to the hotel, Carlisle. I said, well, at least I got all these Vivian Westwood, clothes. I can go back to LA and sell them. And the phone rang at 8 a.m. and it was my manager, Danny Goldberg.
Oh, right.
Who said, you're back in. They made a deal with him last night. And I only learned years later that it was a merchandising deal.
Oh.
Where he got a bigger piece of the merch.
Wow. Okay.
And because he never wanted to do it, and he wouldn't have liked it anyway. He was an amazing artist, and I love him to this day. And I knew him way before the Duran years. I mean, we did a lot of gigs over here with Vinegar Joe. He had a band with a girl called Elkie Brooks. It was like a white Ike and Tina, soulful, great, brilliant. Loved him, and respected him greatly, and still do. But, I don't fill anybody's shoes,
No, right, exactly.
I bring my own shoes.
And also he was off to make his next record, which was his biggest record, right?
He was, yeah. But, he passed away from substances and stuff. And, it's a lengthy story, which is not mine to tell.
I had the suspicion because when you're a certain age, 50 and cigarette smoker and whatever, and
you're not going to make 60.
Yeah.
But so anyway, that's another reason to stay sober, and the vanity of it all.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then, and I rehearsed for a few days and then did a little show called Live Aid.
Yeah, just a casual little neighborhood.
Showed up. 2 billion people, I think, something like that.
Jesus Christ.
So I think stories like that are also good to impart, especially with people who might be struggling with worrying about things aren't going the way that they...
You never know.
Yeah.
Listen, here's the key. This is what I learned for your audience and certainly for myself, and it worked. The secret of it all is to remain enthusiastic, remain interested, and know that things can change in a heartbeat. The thing is about it is you've got to be ready.
Sure.
That means eating well.
Yeah.
That means drinking water. That means flossing your teeth, which Patti Smith starts every show with, by the way.
Really?
Wait.
Floss your fucking teeth, you stupid bastards.
Are you serious?
I am serious. If you think about that, punk rock is not dental floss.
Right.
Which is a great T-shirt.
That is a good T-shirt, yeah.
But Patti Smith is a shaman and a priestess of punk. If she can say it, then we can all think it. Do it. Because I will tell you, if you're not physically up for it, you will fall on your ass. And that's why I espouse fitness and health, which is what I am. I'm 70 years old. I weigh the same as I did in those days. I eat well. I grow my own food. Like anything, I'm obsessive.
But channeling that tendency into something productive is about the best you can do because you can't shake it, right?
Gosh, I just would say that the most important thing for anybody to hear here is being ready and being healthy and fit and excited about life rather than numbed and shocked and saddened by it. I mean, I've had pitfalls that you wouldn't believe. The abyss. The abyss was my buddy,
Yeah.
I thought the abyss was my home for many, many times in my life, but it wasn't. And I feel great about being able to clamber up and out.
Yeah.
Once the darkness is gone, what's left? Light.
Sure.
Yeah. Perpetual light.
Yeah.
Even at night.
Can't help but rhyme.
I hope you guys have enjoyed me chatting. I'm bored now. I bored myself to death.
Well, I think that was good. I think we should record one now because I think the rehearsal was great. And if we just keep that vibe, that energy, I mean, we've had the coffee, so...
No, it's been great. You guys are great, and I've really enjoyed the conversation.
You so much.
Thank you so much for joining us, Michael.
Of course, man.
Fabulous.
Anytime.
Wonderful.
And give my love to Mike Chapman. And all you guys out there, you can think anything you like of me, but know this: everything I say is the truth, and I would never lie to you. And I love you. And be kind and be cool, be courageous would be, I suppose, summing up this whole conversation. You can hear me on the radio, Little Steven's Underground Garage, Sirius XM Channel 21, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern, and 9 p.m. to midnight on the West Coast. I love you. Have fun.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Wild I need you by sun and candlelight. You protest, you want to leave, stay, there's no alternative.
Your face appears again, I see the beauty there, but I see danger. Stranger, beware of circumstance in your naked dreams. Your affection is not what it seems. Obsession, you're my obsession. Who do you want me to be to make you sleep with me? You are an obsession, you're my obsession. Who do you want me to be to make you sleep with me?
My fantasy has turned to madness, and all my goodness has turned to badness. My need to possess you has consumed my soul. My life is trembling, I have no control.